What's cracking, everybody? This is Anonymous Kurt, aka Just Kurt, in the StarCraft realm. Today I will be the Red Zerg versus the Blue Terran Gyro, or Gyro. I'm not quite 100% sure how to say that, but I'm going to go with Gyro because I like gyros. I eat them, actually not often. Anyways, going on a quick tangent. Let me get back to my normal 30 to 60 second spiel on me as a StarCraft player. I am in the Masters League currently. The 7th season just started, so I am, I believe, what did I say, Johnny? Oh, my friend Johnny's here. Anyways, I believe I am ranked approximately 15 at the moment. I got as high as number 2, simply because the season is just new, so I don't think I will be able to sustain that number 2 rank. Along with being in the Masters League, I am a random player, so my replays will be of all races. Zerg is my best race, and if I had to choose, I would choose Zerg, but since I've been playing StarCraft for approximately 13 years, I do not like to choose my race, so I random. Not because I'm cheesy, but because, yes, I just enjoy to random. Anyways, I have my good friend Johnny here because Johnny has recently been criticizing my replays, and I told him, you know what, sucker, why don't you join me then? And so he's decided to join me, so Johnny, take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Johnny. Kurt was asking what's cracking. If you said my voice like a teenage girl because of my excitement to cast, you are correct.
How long have you been holding that one in your pocket there, Johnny?
I thought of it while I was peeing, you know.
Nice. That seems to be where everything happens in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable.
Okay. Apparently my Overlord is lost at the moment. I don't know if you're noticing this, but I don't know where he's going. Actually, maybe I do. I have my Overlord targeted funny because some Terran players are smart, and right around I think it's 2 minutes or 1:30. I don't know the exact timing. They'll go to the left of their base and see if an Overlord's coming. So they'll spot an Overlord before the Overlord comes. So the way I have got around this is my Overlord takes funky angles, and at the angle that it's taking, I can see if he's doing some sort of early two barracks pressure, or if he's walling off for an early expo. But my Overlord kind of took the wrong angle, because usually I'll make it so I can see the upper ramp, and the upper ramp will tell me whether or not that guy is there. So apparently I had the right idea, but the wrong execution.
So talking about just your game plan in general towards Terran, is there a specific style that you play over others?
Sorry, I had to turn on my menus because I was not paying attention. Anyways, once again, what was that, Johnny?
So, early game versus Terran, is there any specific strategies that you prefer over others?
Versus Terran, I will always do the Spanishiwa build, and I will play that until I die because it is one of the greatest builds ever, as long as you can micro yourself into the 15 to 20 minute mark, which I say that I can, so I try. What the Spanishiwa build is, I've told you this many times, but I will keep telling you, is you basically hold off on your gas till you hit around 40 supply. So what that does is power you straight through to lots and lots of money, and you can catch up on your gas later by scoring 4 extractors much later in the game, but you eventually catch up. So yeah, that's my usual opening ZVT. If they do any sort of 2 barracks pressure, like I said, I do tend to sort of scout it. At this point, I don't think he's 2 barracks pressuring me because I do have this Zelnaga tower and I don't see anything going on. And just on cue, right at the 5 minute and 30 mark, my drone is going to see what's going on. As I've said plenty times before, I predicate my play on knowing what my opponent's building. I do. Oh, my drone, poor drone. He does scout this bunker, so at this point I know that he is doing some sort of early expansion. Because why would you block that ramp with the bunker unless you were early expoing? Would you agree, my good friend Johnny?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, so my thought process is, yes, I know that I'm not going to get an attack for a while now that I've seen that he's going to do an early expo. So I basically know that he's not going to attack me for a while. If anything, he's going to do some sort of little Hellion cute play, but I'll be prepared for it.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that. Terrans nowadays, it's pretty standard to go, you know, like a 6 Hellion opening to gain map control. A lot of people use spine crawlers, but it looks like you're going a lot of queens. What's your reasoning for that?
Queens because they can block the upper ramp on Shakuris. I do go a lot of spine crawlers eventually. Looks like I was gonna grab a greedy expo, but he's smartly built a supply depot, and that's kind of good on him. But yeah, I do build a lot of spine crawlers because I believe spine crawlers are very underrated. They should be considered a unit because they're mobile, but they're considered static defense, which I like to build lots of them. So I do build lots of queens, but I also build lots of spine crawlers.
So I noticed that unlike a lot of players, you actually like to have your overlords out on the map. What's your reasoning for that, and do you ever have problems with your overlords getting hunted by Marines or Vikings?
Yes. As I have said multiple times, my play is predicated on map control and knowing what the opponent is doing. So as you said that, my overlords are spreading out to kind of see the map. I do that because Vikings don't usually hunt me down. Yeah. 1 second as I cough. I am slightly under the weather, so this game casting is kind of killing my throat, but that's okay. I'm gonna power through if that's okay with you, Johnny.
Sure. So I'm right around just after the 8-minute 30, 8-minute 45 time, and I'm seeing 4 Hellions on the field. You see that too. I'm not really seeing much else from a first-person point of view. What's your game plan from here on out? Do you try and push towards his base? Do you try and sacrifice an overlord for scouting, or what's your game plan?
No, at this point I see the Hellions and I know that he's got a factory for one. So he's either gonna eventually go to tanks and marines, which is very common for Terran play, or he's gonna keep pumping Hellions, which is actually, I've lost to that because there's some people who will build like 20 Hellions and nobody builds 20 Hellions, so I never expect that. But at this point I'm kind of assuming some tanks and marines. As you can see, as I was talking about, these 2 queens are blocking the upper ramp, so he is kind of killing a few drones. One Hellion has 5 kills, one Hellion has 2. But if you right click to your your higher ground minerals, the drones go right through the queens and the Hellions do not. So that's what I was talking about. I'm usually prepared for this sort of Hellion harassment. I am losing some drones, yes, but it's not that significant because I'm building about 1 million at this point. The resources lost tab will show that I've lost 550 resources to his 450 Hellions. So that's drones to Hellions. It's kind of an even exchange as far as resources go, but I still have a junk load of drones. Let me count that exactly. I have 69 drones to his 45 SCVs. So yeah, at this point, as I was saying, I'm assuming some sort of tanks and marines, and the response to that with this Benicia build is infestors, which infestors, if you play them right, are basically the exact counter to tanks and marines. And at this point, if this is the 10-minute 45, I will unburrow all my spine crawlers, as you can tell. And what I'm doing is that I'm going to try to push my creep as far as I can and my spine crawlers as far as I can. The reason I do this is, Johnny, I don't know if you know from StarCraft 1, there is a player named Savior who revolutionized the ZVT matchup. And how he did that is he rushed lurkers as fast as he could, and versus Terran. And essentially Terran, they gobble up Zerg with any sort of tank push with Marines. And as a Zerg player, he would rush lurkers, and the lurkers, he would set them out as far away from his base as he could. So once tanks would siege up, say they'd siege up right here, I'm pointing, you cannot see it at the moment, Johnny. If tanks were to siege up right here, they have larger range than the lurker. They would then, Savior would unburrow his lurkers and plant them approximately, I don't know, half an inch or so on the map backwards, and the tanks would not be able to reach it. So at that point, the tanks would have to unsiege and resiege just to get the lurkers in view to attack again. So essentially, all this does is it's a stalling tactic. So I use my spine crawlers how Savior uses lurkers essentially. So I'm trying to push these out as far as I can.
So I'm close to the 13-minute mark at this point, and up till now I actually haven't seen a single bio unit. I noticed you put a sensor tower down. Your overlords see that he's not been expoing too much. What's your thoughts?
So at this point, if he wants to play a macro game, I know that I can probably beat him. I basically have 3 bases, and I'm gonna take this 4th soon, which is technically should be my 3rd. So my thought process is, if he just kind of wants to camp in his base and hang out, go for it. That kind of plays to my advantage. I do have a changeling, you see. It's scouting that he does have some tanks. He's just kind of gonna run around and see what's going on. I do see the tanks and Hellions come by, and I know that this expo will probably go down, the one at the top, but I built spine crawlers to see if I can protect it anyway. I am playing his 3 bases at the moment. I did notice the SCV exchange, and at the sensor tower, I do see refinery, so he does have his 3rd. The econ is approximately, it's close. It's in my favor, but it's around plus 300 for me. I have 90 drones to his 61 SCVs, but he has mules, so that kind of helps him out. But as I was saying, I do know at this point that we're playing somewhat even. In base value, that is. He got some pretty good scans with my infestors, if you didn't see that. Annihilated a bunch of my infestors. We are now at the 10 minute mark. He has ghosts. Ghosts are pretty good against infestors, and I actually don't see them as often as I should. Which is sort of a surprise to me. Because infestors are awesome. What are you seeing on the field right now, Johnny? I'm building 3 spine crawlers. I don't know why at the moment. Probably for the future. Apparently I'm going to take this expo again later, hopefully.
So you've lost a lot of map control, and Zerg kind of depends on having either map control or being able to remax really quickly. You've got a lot of saturation at your natural. You need to take a new base. What kind of units are you gonna build so you can secure one?
Oh, I did take a new base. I'm taking the 3rd, which is right here, but right now there's Hellions attacking it. We're at the 15-minute, 15-second mark. My thought process right now is he has a lot of factory units. I'm passing an overlord by his expo right now, and I'm trying to scout if he's doing just factory units or if he's gonna do any sort of starport barracks to go along with that. So my reaction to the factory units is, of course, broodlords, which gobble up tanks, marines, and Thors, actually. So my greatest fire is coming in. I have 3 infestors on the field, and I'm trying to produce corruptors at the moment. Yes, I have 4 corruptors on the way, and they will be here shortly.
So I'm at the 16-ish minute mark, and you've got
correct.
some tanks making a slow push towards your natural.
Yes, that's correct. I wanted to note that I did scout that he is trying to put a 4th down at his south 3rd base. He is tank pushing right now. I should be unburning my spine crawlers. Apparently I'm not paying attention at the moment. Unburrow. Nope. Okay. Maybe not. So I do this little beach ball play. What this does is, if you see, the tanks are shooting each other. Essentially, he just killed 4 tanks, and the infestor used just energy to kill those 4 tanks. So economically wise, that was fairly efficient of me, and the infestors are just gonna go regain their energy. And meanwhile, I'm stalling this push. So basically, he's gonna give me some sort of slow push. I'm just trying to stall as much as I can for my broodlords. As you can see, I'm morphing in 3 broodlords. I have a 4th corruptor. I'm really high in minerals. I need to kind of get my gas intake up. So I'm probably gonna do some sort of mass expansion, mass spine crawler play. The mass spine crawlers would just be to stall any sort of attack while I get my bases up. Oh, Johnny, you're popular. I do hear your phone going off.
I am indeed. So you're going Broodlord Infestor, which is a pretty typical Zerg late game army. If you're engaging a lot of mech units like he seems to be building, how do you control these units to get the best cost efficiency out of them?
Well, what I usually use these units for is defense. Actually, what will usually happen versus Terran is I'll get some Broodlords, but they will pump out Vikings. But they'll usually pump out way too many Vikings than they need. I don't know why, but that's pretty common for a Terran player to pump out. Say, I have 3 Broodlords on the field right now. A Terran player will pump out usually like 10 Vikings for no apparent reason. And so what I usually do there is, what I'll probably do here, in fact, is switch to Ultralisks, because at that point, Vikings versus Ultralisks are pretty awesome, and so you can take out my Broodlords, but your Vikings are not going to do anything to my Ultralisks. So that's probably going to be my response. I just kind of want to hold down the fort essentially. So as you can tell, I spent all my money. Now I'm at 100 minerals, 100 gas, and I'm trying to mass expo at this point, and keep my map control, keep my defense up, and there are a few Ultralisks. There is one on the field, so yeah, he knows that I have Broodlords at this point. I think. Do you recall, Johnny, if you saw my Broodlord?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well maybe he didn't, but I did notice he's building a lot of turrets. So I think he's trying to. He does have Vikings on the field. So yeah, this is a problem for my Broodlords, but like I said, my response is just to basically kind of Ultralisk out and kind of play with Niduses at this point. I'm pretty sure this guy is in the lead. He does have 6,000 resources killed to my 3,000, so he has a small lead. The econ is approximately even at this point. He has mules, so if you look at the econ, he's 1,000 more minerals than me, but that's not super sustainable because there's the mules. You do see that he's taking out my third. We're at the 20-minute mark. Or I guess technically that's like my 5th base, but which should be my 3rd. So I did cancel that, but I do see his unit composition is basically all factory units and some Vikings. So at this point, I know that he thinks that I'm going Broodlords to counter his factory units, and I'm gonna counter with. Right now, I'm countering his planetary fortress apparently.
So I noticed you play in this game at least. You play Nidus Worms, and I don't see that very often in pro leagues and even on ladder. What's the idea here?
Nidus Worms are awesome for Zerg because it's sort of the equivalent of the front door back door attack that Terran I like to play with. I do like to kind of mess with people's minds, I guess, in that sense, because some people don't pay attention, including myself. People in general are pretty vulnerable to front door, back door attacks. It's sort of hard to pay attention to everything at the same moment. So, Nidus, as you hear one come down, I don't even know where that Nidus is actually.
There's
Nidus
one down,
is
bottom right.
there it is. Yes, Niduses, they allow me to basically do the front door, the multi-pronged attack, essentially. And at the moment, I'm sending my Broodlords to his expansions, but I was kind of hoping that they'd get sacked, or he would overreact with a whole lot of Vikings. But he's not, so I'm just kind of ransacking his base at the moment. I did send my Infestors through that Nidus, just because if he did send a bunch of Vikings, I could sort of protect them, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised that this actually worked. It's just 4 Broodlords and 4 Infestors at the moment. Meanwhile, we're going on a semi-base trade. At the top, I lost a base, but I did burrow my units, so I'll probably just bring that right up. My drones will come up, unburrow, and just say hello to the world and build another hatchery. So at this point, these Vikings are annihilating my Broodlords, and I can't really do anything about it. So I'm kind of getting some vision, and just kind of doing stuff to his expo. In the meantime, he's kind of ravaging. Oh no, he already killed that base. My APM is kind of slipping at this point because there's not much to do from this macro standpoint. I'm usually around the 120. Currently, I'm at 105. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm tech switching to a bunch of Ultralisks with Nidus play. Or I'm lying to you because I just see that I have some Corruptors. Ha! Gotcha, Johnny. Eat it.
So it looks like the Terran here is pushing really slow across the map. He's using a lot of siege tanks. He's just trying to hold his position and deny bases for you. In a late game situation like this, you know, you've gotten it looks to be 4 bases right now. You're mined out in your main,
That's correct.
but you're going to have a pretty buff late game army. From the units tab at the 24-minute mark, you got a couple Ultralisks, Broodlords, Corruptors, Investors. You see that he's basically got mostly tanks, Thors. What are you going to try to do? How do you engage this army since it's so static and so strong?
So this is where the Nidus comes into play, because yes, these units are very strong, but they're not very mobile at all. So tanks are strongest when they're in siege, but they take forever basically to siege across the map. So that's what I was kind of saying earlier, where I have, if you see on the field, there's like a million spine crawlers at my bases. So essentially all that does is it's going to stall time if he wants to attack me. So yeah, as the Nidus goes down at the top, I did notice that he killed my Nidus at the bottom. So essentially he's got to walk all the way across the map to guard his base. So I kind of knew that, and yeah, I'm just kind of going to go through his main. And what I'll do is usually I'll just hit and run. I'll just maybe take out his command center, take out his supplies, and then I'll hop back into Nidus, and I'll probably produce one at the south end, and just kind of literally harass him. I'm just going to hit his base, run, and then I'm going to go from the south side. I assume, or I'm going to go somewhere else, but I don't think I'm going to try to engage this Thor, Tank, Hellion mix, because although I do have a lot of Ultralisks, they're probably not going to survive that.
Yeah, so let's talk about upgrades here. I see your Ultralisks at the 25 and a half minute mark. They're at 3-3.
Yes.
So is this really high upgraded style? Is that because he's kind of limited your mobility around the map with his static units?
I tend to always get the upgrades, so I'm not sure it's a reaction to any of his play. Are you saying that I got it late? Or are you
No, just that he kind of forces you to not be able to have units and putting pressure around the map. So, you know, you're going to have kind of a collection of units at your base. So, as a result, you want to upgrade them because they're not going to be, you know, like the constant Zerg style where you're just trading units and just kind of throwing them away because they're so cheap.
Yes, that's correct. But I sort of planned for this in advance. I wanted to push this game into macro, so I did get the upgrades, and I was stalling earlier during his random pushes, but I did get the upgrades early to plan for the late game, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Because
So I mean, your composition here is very, very strong. You've got a lot of tier 2, tier 3 units, and you haven't really made that many Zerglings all game. Like, what role do you think the Zerglings have? I know a lot of people like to try Zergling run-bys just to try and get workers. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I usually do Zergling run-bys mostly versus Protoss players, because Protoss players, usually early game they will fast forge expand or do some sort of block at their ramp. But towards the late game, they kind of slip, and usually there's a hole, and I do lots of run-bys for Protoss. But as far as Terran goes, they're usually pretty good about turtling, so run-bys don't really work that well. As you can see right now, if you just look at his side of the map, he has like 10 tanks that are guarding his planetary fortress. And on the south side, he has a million units, a million turrets with the Thor that's kind of hanging out there. So he's fairly well protected. Zergling at this point wouldn't do much, especially versus he has a lot of planetary fortresses at his expansion. So not a lot of Zerglings will be built. I'm mainly focusing on just a lot of harassing play with my Niduses. We're at the 28-minute mark in a few seconds, and Nidus is going down to the south side. He responds too slow, so it's going to go down.
It also looks like his natural, or I guess his third expansion in front of his base, he actually had a lot of idle SCVs for a really long time. Doesn't seem like he's actually able to manage up to the 4 or 5 base count very efficiently.
Yes, that's correct, and that's kind of what I'm predicating. What those SCVs were doing is they were repairing the planetary fortress, and that's sort of what this harassing style of play is doing. I also build a Nidus, if you can see, at the natural of the south expansion. Yeah, so I'm just kind of hitting all his bases and then loading back up into the Nidus, and then I will just be going in and out. So yeah, you see me going to the Nidus, and now I'm coming back out at the right side. If you see his planetary fortress, there are some Ultralisks, and I'm just planting a whole bunch of infested Terrans. So as you were pointing out earlier, he did have a strong ball. They were factory heavy, but the problem with that is that they're not mobile. So that's why I do this. Once it hits late game, I do this Nidus play because they're not very mobile at all. So once again, I'm loading up into the Nidus. So I killed that Expo, and they did their part. So I'm just gonna kind of load up and harass somewhere else.
Yep, and now again, he's got a lot of idle SCVs at his natural of the south.
Yes, that is correct. Let's take a look at the income. Currently, I've killed all his income. He has 100 mineral to my 1700 production income that's going on. It looks like I sort of had to engage into this battle at the south side because he killed my Nidus and I didn't get to. I couldn't load back into my Nidus, so I tried to do whatever damage I could. Obviously, I wasn't going to win that fight, but I tried. Give me some credit for trying. And I am maxing out fairly well, and we're at the 30-minute mark, and you can tell that my mineral, as I've said many times, once I hit the 15-20-minute mark, the game is usually in my favor because I can spend my money and I can also earn it. So
unfortunately for you, you're against a Terran. If you look at the natural of his south side, he just dropped like 15 mules or something.
No, that is correct. But what I was saying is that he has 4,000 minerals and 3,000 in stock.
Sure.
So he did drop a lot of mules, but if he didn't have those, his income would be 0, and his outcome is also 0 apparently because he's not managing his base very well because of the harassment, and that's kind of what my style is predicated on. It is constant harassment, constant, just kind of annoying his bases. So I'm fairly confident that I'm gonna win this game out of sheer harassment, but I think he wants to push it basically to a mined out map, which since he's sitting on 4,000 minerals, I think he just wants to kind of draw the game out and see if I basically throw away all my units, because Zerg players, as you said, they do replenish quickly, and that's what they do. They kind of throw away their units because they're so cheap. But if we were to mine this map out, the favor would then be into the Terrans, because quite literally he's just holed up in a wall, and yeah. If we were to mine this map out, essentially I would have to lose this game, but I'm not going to let it happen. So as you can see, we are at the 32-minute mark, and a Nidus goes down, and I'm just going to eat some more bases up.
I also noticed that you have the South Expo, and before in your natural and your third base, you had a lot of spine crawlers, and that denied a lot of his advances towards your southwest half. I noticed you're not putting any static defense at the bottom. Is that just because there's a lot going on, or?
At that point, I'm pretty sure I just, if that base was to go down, I'd just run my drones out. Since it's so close to my base, I'm not worried about protecting it. You can see that I have an overlord there, so it's gonna spot the destructible rocks if he's gonna do anything. I do know that he is factory heavy, so it would take him some time to kind of get there, and I have enough time to respond. So essentially, I know that I can't protect it very well, so I don't. I just live on the wild side. So wild side, Johnny. That's just kind of how I roll. And as we hit the 33-minute mark, I threw all these infested Terran on the cliff, and I'm having my Ultralisk run up, and they're just kind of poking away at this planetary fortress. And I don't know what exactly he's doing at the moment. His reaction speed seems to be slightly slow. His APM is at 80, it's not bad. So this planetary fortress goes down. I should not engage in this battle. It looks like, yeah, I'm going to try to run up the ramp, and I did plant another Nidus here, so I'm going to try to just save my units and run out of here. And hopefully go somewhere else. So yeah, Johnny, what are your thoughts as a Terran player? I know that you mainly play as Terran.
This is honestly kind of a weird matchup for me. I don't like to build many ghosts because they require a lot of a higher APM, a lot of control. So I would actually be pretty weak to this very mobile style.
That's kind of what most Terran players play like, and that's why I do it. because most Terran players like to hole up in their base, and they'll sort of just kind of push out, I guess. So they kind of fortify their base and slowly chip away at the Zerg. So the way that I react to that is I don't let them get comfortable. I sort of just keep harassing them. And that's what I would do versus you, Johnny, and that's what I'm doing right here.
Yeah, so I noticed you have quite a few infestors, and infestors, by themselves are kind of weak. They're kind of fragile. So in general, how do you kind of prioritize controlling them? I see you throw a lot of infested Terrans. Other people like to fungal a lot. Does the fungal make sense in this matchup?
The fungal doesn't make that much sense because his units are so high in HP. Thor, fungal's not going to do too well. Viking, maybe. Yeah. It wouldn't really make sense to fungal. Maybe it would to do the mind control, but mind control isn't usually that successful for me because once you kill if you target the infestor that's mind controlling, if your micro is good enough, mind control doesn't really do much as far as the infestor goes. But yeah, the infestors and the infested Terran are mostly to sort of back up the Ultralisk with some sort of range unit, and
it also defends against a lot of the Vikings that he's got out on the map. I'm at around the 37-minute mark, and
yes.
He's got looks like about 13, 14 Vikings.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's actually kind of curious he started building them. I don't really feel like you had many units that require any Vikings.
So, as I was telling you earlier, Terran usually overreact with their Vikings. I'm pretty sure he thought I was going with a lot of Brood Lords, so... as I said, I don't know why they tend to do that, but they tend to do that, so... Usually I'll get Ultralisks versus the Vikings, because, yeah, these Vikings will do absolutely nothing versus the Ultralisks and Infestor combination. But yeah, as I said, yeah. See, how many Vikings does he have right now? He has something like 15 Vikings.
Yeah, and I actually feel like it's kind of dead supply for him. If you look at the supply counts, I'm kind of close to the 38-minute mark.
That's correct.
Your supply is around, you're almost maxed out, and he's supply blocked right now at 111. And I actually feel like there's a lot of supply that's tied up in these Vikings that aren't going to be able to do anything. If you look at his main army, the bulk of his main army is right now is Thors and tanks. He's got a couple ghosts in the field, but
yeah.
The Vikings can't really help in this situation. The Thors are going to be the anti-air. If there's any mobile unit, he's got to land his Vikings, which is kind of wasted time. And Vikings actually do pretty good DPS, but they don't make much sense in this army.
Yes, that is correct, which if I was him, I would have much rather sacked them. But I think he's sort of keeping them because his army value is pretty low. As you said, I'm already maxed out. He's at 111. So, not sure what he's doing with them, but...
So the game right here is winding down a little bit, but let's take a look at the mini-map. It looks like you've got 7 bases, and your first-person view of his base is actually pretty good compared to what he's actually got. But right now, you can kind of bleed him out. So what's your strategy? I know you're maxed. Do you attack? Do you...
So as I was saying earlier, I'm sort of aware that he might be just trying to draw this to a mind out map, which would not go into my favor, so I'm sort of trying to be efficient with my attacks, but at this point I am trying to bleed him out and kind of kill off all his income. At this point I don't know that his spending is that bad, but I do know that he does not have a lot of income. If you look, he has 80 minerals as income and 300 gas, so at this point, I'm just trying to rid him of any sort of mineral income that he can get, because I know that if I just keep bleeding him out, he'll slowly break.
Do you keep building a lot of the same units at this point? Do you still stay heavy Ultralist? Do you go Infestor? Maybe even a tech switch to Roaches? What's your plan?
No, I'm gonna stick with the same unit because it's basically it crushes exactly what he has. The Ultralisks crush tanks, siege, unsiege, and the Infestors also crush tanks if you plant Infested Terran, hither, thither, here and there. As well as the Vikings. I'm not sure why he's keeping them on the field, but yeah, I'm gonna stay with this unit composition because I know that his units are not going to do anything to mine.
It looks like he's actually getting really, really sloppy with his rallies. If you look at the 41-minute mark and you're attacking his main.
I'm at the 40-minute mark. Did you fast forward, my good friend Johnny?
No, man, your replay is just slow.
Apparently it is. So yeah, you are further advanced than I am. I'm, yes, at the 40-minute mark, and I'm just harassing right now. So you are going to take a look into the crystal ball and see the past. But what is going on at the moment is that I'm just eating up all his expos. We're at the 40-30 mark. For whatever reason, maybe my computer is lagging or something. But we are not synced at the moment. Either way, I'd say that this game was in hand. Johnny, would you have to agree?
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he got a lot of map control, he got a lot of map vision from his sensor towers, but it just seems like his mechanics really weren't there. If you look at where his buildings are rallied, he's throwing away a lot of units. Just walk right past you or walk right into your Ultralisks.
Yeah, I would believe so. At the Masters level, I believe a lot of Terran players have sort of solid technique, but their micro is not that great. His APM, I believe, is 80. It's not super slow, but it's not super fast. But what I was gonna say is most Terran players, what they tend to do is kind of sit back and kind of chip away at bases, but they'll fortify their own base and sort of just draw the game out. And I kind of came into this game knowing that, but I also knew that myself as a macro player, what I kind of rely on is lots of constant harassment and sort of replenishing my units pretty quickly because I built the economic advantage, I guess, for the late game. So I sort of knew that this would play out this way because this is how most Terran players play. I mean, I guess as a Terran player, Johnny, would you sort of agree that that's how you kind of hang things out?
Yeah, when I approach a Zerg matchup, I try and get map control early. But if I end up losing Hellions or something like that, I'm ended up forced to play very within my base. I might try a lot more drops. This guy, I think it's pretty obvious he wasn't going for any kind of sneaky tactics. He just put, he built, like you said, a wall across the map.
Yeah. And that's essentially what a lot of Terran players do. What some, like you said, sneaky tactics, what some players do is they do some backdoor drops, but I do build a lot of spine crawlers, so I usually fend them off fairly well. And the front door attacks that happen, I just kind of stall them with my spine crawler play, like I said, burrowing them 2 feet backwards. So versus Terran, that's a pretty good matchup for me, I believe. Anything else you'd like to close with, Johnny?
Nope, looks like it wrapped up.
Alright, so as usual, I will close with my usual kicker. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that there's 2 things I can guarantee you right here, right now, in this life, and to my good friend Johnny. 1, that I rap better than your favorite StarCraft player, and 2, that I play StarCraft better than your favorite rapper. Alright, later!